welcome to the session. More will keep joining us. So we begin with the session. It's great to have you in our masterclass session today on cracking the PM interviews with proven AI strategies from Swiggy and Oyo. Before we kick off our session, we would like to learn more about our audience today with a quick poll. Please take a moment to share your responses. Thank you. Is the poll visible to all?
Yes.
Yes, Rakhi.
Yeah, please take a moment to respond on the poll. Thank you. As our audience is sharing their responses, I will like to introduce our guest of today's session, Mr. Sanchit Agarwal. We are thrilled to have Sanchit in this session. Sanchit is a seasoned product manager with extensive experience at some of the most dynamic growth stage companies, including Swiggy, Oyo, Walmart, and Barclays. Currently, he's heading a product division and founding team member at Veera, where he has successfully built and scaled a reward based web browser app for Android to over 1.5 million users within a year. Welcome, Sanchit, to the session. We are eager to hear about your product ideologies, insight, and experiences. And let us know what exciting topics you will be sharing today with our audience. Over to you, Sanchit.
Thanks a lot, Rakhi. Hey, everyone. Thanks for taking out the time to join today. Is my voice audible?
Yes,
Yes,
Perfect.
Sanchit.
Thanks, Rakhi. Thanks, Telvinder. So
thanks.
let me begin. I'll quickly, thanks for the introduction, Rakhi. I'll just quickly build on top of it. Uh, I have been working in the product field for more than 12 years now, across companies that Rakhi mentioned. For example, Barclays, Swiggy, Oyo, Walmart, and most recently Veera. So currently, I'm leading the entire product vertical at Veera, and I'm also part of the founding team of that company. So over the past 12 years, as I've been building products, right, I have derived some insights in terms of how a product manager should function, and more specifically for this session, how does AI work in the companies that I've worked in, and how does it lend itself in product interviews. Raki, do you want to first discuss this poll, or should we just continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll publish the poll. Is the result visible?
Yeah. So let me just quickly share my screen and then we can proceed.
I'm stopping the sharing. Everyone, we would love to see your faces. If you can open up your cameras wherever you are with your cup of coffee. So please be open to share your cameras and remain participative. Hey, Chinmay.
Hello. Okay. So let's start. I'll quickly cover what I have to talk about today. So this is the content. First of all, we'll talk about what does it mean to have AI in product interviews. Then we'll talk about a real life example of how Oyo implemented AI in solving their business use cases. Then we'll go on to discussing tips for PM interviews. I'll discuss about what type of questions come in PM interviews, what are the interviews looking for, and then finally we'll leave some time for any open Q&A you might have. In between, I'll also keep stopping for any questions. So please feel free to ask questions in between as well whenever I stop for questions. Let's start. Now, do I need to take a very quick refresher on what is AI? A very quick 1 minute segue. I'll just quickly do it because I could see some of them were either beginners in AI or some of them were students. So we'll just quickly discuss what is AI and why is it needed for companies, right? In a nutshell, AI is essentially a software or a system that can parse through tons of data and create meaningful insights out of it, which is not possible for humans to do manually. That is what AI does, and that is how AI is used in companies. How is it used in companies? Basically for either data driven decision making. For example, companies generate vast amounts of data, making it overwhelming or unable to extract actionable insights out of the data, right? Now AI algorithms can parse through that data, generate trends out of it, generate insights out of it, and do some predictive analysis for the future. It's used in a lot of companies these days to solve their real life business use cases. For example, Amazon uses AI to analyze customer behavior, provide personalized product recommendations, and all of that eventually impacts the bottom line and the top line, right? Now, if I come to AI in interviews, I've seen a lot of cases where product managers, when I'm taking interviews, right, product managers come and tell me, okay, I'll use AI in whatever product problem that I give them. Now, that sounds very cool. But when I ask them any follow up questions, they become silent because they don't know actually what AI does. They have not seen AI in action in any company, nor do they actually understand how companies actually use AI. So, now, in order to understand how to crack a PM interview using AI, first of all, we need to understand how companies use that AI, right? Because as an interviewer, if I'm asking any follow up question, I've seen candidates falter there because beyond the first line of questioning, they are not able to respond. So what we'll do now is I'll take you through a detailed case study of Oyo and how they implemented AI to solve their business use case, and then I'll come to how to crack PM interviews in general. Any questions so far?
Not really. I just had one query uh, in general. I think you would anyways cover it. Uh,
Yeah.
it is around how much of it should a PM know? Because I understand that it is becoming very popular right now. AI APM, AI PM, LLM PM, and stuff and whatnot, right? So the
Yeah.
depth, if you could let us know to the depth to which a PM should know, I think that also would be very helpful.
Got it. Sure. So, in a nutshell, basically, you should know the tech, how it is working on a high level. You don't need to get into the details of coding. You don't need to understand how to solve the tech challenges that are faced by the coding team. But in general, being an AI PM, the expectation of you knowing tech are way higher than a general PM. Because, I'll when I go through the Oyo case study, you will understand and appreciate why knowing tech in this sector is slightly more important than being a generalist PM. Any other questions? Okay, let's proceed. So I'll start with the Oyo case study. I'll come to the challenge. Here's the situation. Let's say you open the Oyo app and you're looking for hotels in Delhi. You type Delhi in the hotel bar. There are 250 hotels which come up because that's the number of Oyo hotels that are available in Delhi. Now, as a person, as a customer, are you expected to go through the list of 250 hotels? How will you decide from those 250 hotels? How will you know what is suitable for me? It's not physically possible, right? Now the challenge with Oyo was the more time a customer spends going through that list of hotels, the data points that the chances of them dropping off are very high, right? And because there is a vast selection of Oyo hotels on the app, I don't know as a user which is more suitable for me. And as Oyo, I don't want to my customer to book the wrong hotel and then have a bad experience, right? Now, what is the impact of this? If I present the right list of hotels to the user, the chances of them selecting and eventually booking a right hotel is higher. Otherwise, if let's say the most suitable hotel for a customer is at the 20th rank in those search results, the chances are that the customer might not reach that 20th rank and he might drop off and book some other competitor hotel, right? So the order of property listing isn't just about aesthetics. It's very critical for the revenue of the OYO. I hope the problem statement is clear, right? The when you search for hotels out of the 250, how will the hotels be ranked? Is the problem statement here that was given to our team. And why is it critical? Is because if the right hotel is not available in the first 3 to 5 search results, the chances of the customer dropping off are way higher. Now, here is when we'll stop and do a very quick exercise, 30-second exercise. Having given this brief, if you are a product manager sitting in a product interview, what all variables will you consider to solve this problem? And I'm not asking you to think about the whole project, how will it be solved? I'm just asking you to think about the variables in terms of what input parameters will go into this decision making. For example, the rating of the hotel, for example, the cost of the hotel, right? I would just urge you to quickly in 30 seconds list down those variables with you. We'll not, and then I'll show you what we actually considered while building that ranking system. The objective is for you to realize what you thought of and then what was actually used in the actual situation.
Sanchit, we are getting some responses in the chat box.
Okay, cool. So let's proceed. The idea was just to have a list with you so that you can compare when I show the next slide. Now I'll show the kind of variables that we actually considered while building this ranking system. And what I'm showing you here is a list of like 30 odd variables, but in reality, we had more than 50 variables. Now the variables were categorized in 4 categories. One was the hotel relevant variables, the customer relevant variables, the experience relevant variables, and finance and business facing variables. So I'll just quickly go through the list. In terms of the hotel, what is the availability of the hotel is one factor. Is it available for users in general, or generally it is all booked out? What is the quality score? So Oyo gives a quality score to each hotel from a rating of 1 to 5. How good is the hotel in the company's perspective? What are the kind of amenities that a hotel provides, right? Some of the hotels provide you with probably way better toiletries. Some of the budget hotels do not provide that, right? So what are the kind of amenities? Does the hotel provide breakfast or not? What are the kind of images and descriptions that are available for the hotel with Oyo? Because those are very good variables or factors for the customer to decide. What is the cost, which some of you mentioned? What is the distance from the city center, which some of you mentioned? Uh, does the hotel match the city in which it is present? For example, the kind of hotel that a customer will want to book in Goa is very different from a kind of hotel the customer will want to book in Varanasi, right? So does the hotel match the city is it in? Then there are customer related variables. What is the amount that a particular user is willing to pay? What are the type of hotels that they have booked in the past, which also came in some of the comments that you guys said? What is the duration of the booking that he's looking for at this point? Then what are the kind of hotels that the user has viewed in the past or booked in the past? Then there are certain user level segmentations that we have. Where does the user lie in those segments? Does the user need this hotel urgently? For example, if he's booking for a hotel for today's date, that is a very high urgency booking, right? Then there are certain variables for stay experience. What are the ratings and reviews that the customer has given to a particular hotel? Are there any escalations that the customer has done for the hotel, or in reverse the hotel has done for the customer? Then are there certain hotels for which every customer is reaching out to Oyo asking questions about that hotel, which means that there is something problematic about that hotel which is not clear for the users? Are some of the hotels having premature checkouts from users or customers, right? Which means that there is something wrong in that hotel. Are there cancellations or no shows in that hotel? Which essentially means that even after booking, the customer was not happy with that hotel, right? Then there are a lot of finance and business level considerations. What is the commission that Oyo is making out of that hotel? Does Oyo need to provide a minimum guarantee to the hotel? Because these are some of the deals that we crack, that okay, we will give you X number of bookings every month. Is there any funding or transaction burn that Oyo is doing? For example, is there any deal wherein we say that, hey, to the hotel, if I give you a booking of let's say 3,000 rupees, I will fund 500 out of it, right? Is the hotel accepting postpaid bookings, or is it just everything has to be prepaid? What is the net revenue per booking that I'm getting from customers? Are there any value added services that I can derive from the customers? So the idea of explaining this in detail was to just show you that the level at which you are thinking is a very surface level understanding, but as a product manager while solving for AI, things usually go pretty deep. And to and this is purely a product manager's job. This will not be done by engineering. So as a product manager, you have to think from multiple perspectives, like from the hotel perspective, the customer perspective, the business perspective, and come up with very detailed variables which feed into the AI model. Right. Now I'll talk about the uh, execution part of this AI, this project, the ranking project that I'm telling you about. And this will help you understand how AI is actually executed. And it is not just a simple plugging in of a AI tool, which is generally the understanding with a lot of people that, hey, I will use this AI tool and my life is sorted and AI will be implemented in the company. But in reality, AI projects are extremely complex and they take a lot of time to implement. And always they are done in phases. Now, I'll quickly take you through this phase wise approach of the ranking project to help you appreciate how AI is actually done on the ground. So,
Um,
yeah, please. Any question?
Sanchit, uh, yeah, on the previous slide, in terms of consideration of different variables while we are trying to create a solution, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yes, I mean, there's definitely a difference in what I could figure out given 30 seconds and stuff and whatnot. But what wanted to clear up was how would what role would customer segment as well play in this? Nowadays, we see a lot of personalization happening, right? What I mean by that is, let's say you're on first cry application trying to buy something for your kid, right? If your kid is in the 1 month to, sorry, 1 year to 2 3 years category, makes no sense to show you 18 years or sorry 10 years kids clothes, right? So what they
Correct.
do is they just take some information, they'll just put you in that segment, and they'll do segmental analysis, and also they can consider these things to give you better responses, right? So am I right to think in that direction as well when it comes to this kind of a problem slash solution overall?
Yes, you're thinking in the right direction. I'll cover this in the slides going forward. Why
Okay.
is segmentation important? So
Okay.
just in nutshell, segmentation helps when, as a user, you don't have any past interaction with the company.
Hmm.
So I'll cover that in the slides.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And Sanchit, uh, the variables that you considered, is it based on a research or is the data that you had, in the past, depending on which, you classify, the variables into, these four broad categories?
So none of this is academic. This is a project that we actually built and launched in OYO. Was that your question?
Yeah, my question was, was it data that was available for you in OYO to classify into these four broad categories, or you
Yes.
done some research with, your competitors and then, gather the data?
No, this was all available in OYO. The first step of building an AI model is to have data, lots and lots of data. Only then will you be able to build an AI model. So this whole data was something that we built out over a period of 6 months, and then post that we started building the AI model.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's proceed. So now we'll go to the phase-wise execution. I'll explain how we went about building this whole AI/ML model and how we started small and gradually stepped up, started building on top of things to create a very elegant solution out of it. So phase one was a very simple rule-based linear model. What does a rule-based linear model mean? For example, out of the variables you saw, I have 250 hotels. I have to rank them on my website whenever a user is searching for a hotel. How do I rank it? The first step is start simple. Come up with a set of four variables. For example, cost, rating, the distance of the hotel from the center, and the customer's experience. Take those four variables, put some weights onto it. For example, 25% weightage to cost, 10% weightage to distance, 30% weightage to past reviews, and create a simple rule based model and put it out. Start by putting out something, right? You do not build AI models in a waterfall approach, you build it in an agile approach. So here it's a simple rule based linear model. The rule is x% cost plus x% distance, and whatever is the output of that equation is the score for that particular hotel, and you just sort basis the scoring. Now it's a very simple equation with variables and weightages, easy and fast implementation. But the problem is it is not AI, it is not ML, it is some basic computer logic. So everyone out of all the participants in this session, everyone will get the same results if they look for hotels with this implementation. So there is no personalization here, but you start. Phase two is you start bringing ML into it. So what we did was we used XGBoost model, which is an ML model, and used a point-wise personalization system. If you want, I can get into the tech details, but that will extend the session a lot. So XGBoost is a ML model that is available out there. It's a pretty good ML model. And what you need to do is you need to plug in your data, and it gives you output based on probabilities. What that means is we had all these variables that I just showed you in the previous slide. We have all those variables. We put all the data of the users of the last 1 year into that XGBoost model and ask it to come up with a output. What is the output? We asked it to rate every hotel basis four parameters. What is the probability of a user click on that hotel? What is the probability of the user to actually reach the booking screen? What is the probability of the user to actually book that particular hotel? And what is the probability of the user to actually show up at the hotel after booking? Because there is a lot of drop off between booking and actually showing up to the hotel. So we asked the XGBoost model to take all the data, apply decision trees on it basis the past 1 year's data, and give me probabilistic outputs on these four parameters. So now what the model has done.
Sanchit, sorry to interrupt. What
Yeah.
was the reason to you only use XGBoost as compared to other, ML models? And, what metrics were considered, in terms of identifying, this is the best model that we should use?
Got it. So there were three broad models out there at that time, and this was the model that was giving the best results to us in our testing. So this is where there is a fine line between the work that a PM does and work that an engineering team does. What the PM does is give a broad outline in terms of the variables and what we want to achieve and what is the method. The way of selecting which particular data science model has to be used is best left to engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So what we did was we used the XGBoost model to get the probability of a user on these four parameters, and then We generated a score basis the probability of these four output, and basis that score we did a ranking. Now this takes primarily hotel level variables into account, but still is not personalized. Any questions so far?
None from me at the moment.
Okay.
And what was the probability score that was considered, the best? When I say this or ask this, is it 80% accuracy in terms of the model giving you the result, or what was the score that was considered the best?
Yeah. So in these kind of models, there is no one score that is considered the best. What you do is once you build this model, you do a validation of this model. What that means is we looked at the search ranking results of the past. Let's say a particular hotel which was booked, or I'll give you an even simpler example. Before this model was launched, we had a ranking system and we looked at which ranks were the hotel being booked in the past. For example, majority of the hotels were being booked at rank 6 and rank 12. Just giving an example, right? Once we build this model, before even launching it to the users, we will do a dry run of it on the past data, which means now we will just re-rank the hotels according to this model and look where those past booked hotels lie now. And in that testing, we found that earlier, if on an average the rank of the hotels which were booked was rank 8 or 9, now that rank is 4. That was actually the jump that we saw. These are real numbers. So this is how you validate. You do not validate it basis, okay, the score that I'm getting is 80% and hence this is better than earlier. You actually have to put that data, put that model on the past data and then see the difference in results of that ranking. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it does, but how did the model, is the model predicted that the ranking has changed from say 8 to 4 or 12 to 4?
Yes, actually. So essentially, what I'm saying is, if the hotels which are actually booked in the past were at rank 10 earlier, and after the new model is applied on the past data, those actually booked hotels by the users now rank at number 4 or 5, which means that actually the hotels which people wanted have come up in the list, and that is an indicator for your model to work in the future. Every other score is just a number, and it's just heuristic. You don't know whether that number will be right or not, but if you apply it on the past data, you will realize that okay, the numbers are actually moving up. What people want is now being shown up.
Okay, thank you.
Now we had launched this model, uh, but it was still not personalized in a way, right? You had put in some hotel level variables, some basic customer level variables, but still it was not fully personalized. It was giving us better conversions than earlier, but still not at the level we wanted. So we moved on to phase three, which is incorporating user behavior into the model. What it does is building onto the same XGBoost model, we now started putting in users past scrolling and booking history into the account, which we hadn't done in the past till phase 2. What it means is if a user is looking for a hotel, the moment he searches for hotels in Delhi, we will look at the entire past booking history and incorporate that into the phase 2 model as well. Then we will also look at what is he searching for right now in this current session, and in real time update the results that are being shown on the screen. This was not present till phase 2, this was incorporated in phase 3. So imagine a situation wherein you have looked for a particular set of hotels, close the app, you come back onto the app 2 minutes later. Now the list of the ranking of the hotels will be changed because it has incorporated your last session history as well. What it does is with phase 3, what we saw was uh, it started bumping up hotels which are actually being clicked and viewed by users, making it way more personalized for you as a user rather than it being generalistic, which it was till the past two phases. We moved on to a self-training model. So till now, we had to still provide some inputs in terms of once these four outputs are given to us, we have to apply some logic on top of it. But now it became a self-training model because no coder can update a model in real time, right? Now the model has to itself start changing to incorporate what the user is doing, what his past booking history was, and start putting that into the results. However, it came up with issues of its own, which is we started facing a rank bias issue. What it means is hotels get stuck in a loop. Let's say the first 10 users who looked for hotels in Delhi saw a certain ranking. Now, the hotels which were available in top 10 were the ones which user will end up clicking on because it's just on top, right? But now, since we are taking that scrolling history into the account and it is a self training model, what the system starts doing is because the first 10 hotels were viewed more than the probably the last 10. Now those top 10 start getting boost automatically because in the first 10 sessions they were on the top rank, and now they are being promoted endlessly because that loop starts. Am I able to explain that clearly?
Yeah, and that's what my
Yes.
about to ask the question,
Yeah.
Sanjit. So when you train a model, right, during training, if the model gives you, high accuracy,
Yeah.
but when you test the model and then accuracy is low, then, how do you handle the situation?
Got it. I'll come to that. It is present 3 slides below this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good. No other questions, so I'll move on. Uh, so this rank bias issue started coming in. So we had to provide a solution for that, which is inverse propensity weights. This is part of your answer, Ravindra, but I'll also address other issues that we faced in the next few slides.
Sure,
But
sure. Thank
it
you.
was an inverse propensity weight that we started applying to the hotel listing, which is a uh, multiplicative factor in the number of sessions. What it means is, if let's say a particular hotel has had a lot of sessions in which it was shown, then we start de-ranking it a little bit and start showing other hotels on top so that this rank bias issue gets solved. Another issue that we started facing was how to solve for new users, which is another question that was asked earlier. Now, what happens is this phase 3 works when we have a lot of data about the user's past booking history, right? But what if I, as a user, I am coming to the Oyo app for the first time? Now, Oyo doesn't know anything about me. In that case, what I have to do is I have to generalize the results basis what other people have booked in this area in the past. For example, if I come to Oyo for the first time, Oyo doesn't know anything about me, but I am looking for a hotel in, let's say, Delhi. I will look, Oyo will look at what other users have done while booking hotels in Delhi, what other users have done while booking hotels in Delhi, and then I'll generalize that experience or those variables to this particular user until and unless I start getting some more data about him. So as a new user, I will use the customer categories or customer segments that have booked hotel in Delhi in the past to start showing him the first set of results. But as soon as the user interacts with me for the first time, does his first session onto the app, gives me some scrolling and some viewing history, I will start tailoring that according to the user. So these were the two broad issues that we saw in phase 3, which is the reason we moved on to phase 4. So phase 4 was basically, till now we were doing a point wise personalization, which was the personalization is applied to this particular hotel only. But since we saw so many issues, we moved to a pair wise personalization model, which is each hotel is not viewed independently. We ask the ML model to view every hotel in pairs. As hotel 1, I will be paired with all the other hotels, all the other 250 hotels, and a scoring will be generated for hotel 1 compared to all other hotels. And this same exercise will be done for all the hotels. So now what it does is we change the model to a lambda based architecture, which is present on AWS, and we move to a pair wise ranking model, which does a pairwise ranking of each hotel relative to all the others and gives me a booking probability for each hotel on the same 4 parameters. What is the probability to click, convert, book, and realize? And this removes rank bias by taking a multiplicative factor of the number of sessions viewed, which I just explained a minute back. So this was a way better model because now hotels are not being viewed independently for the customer, but for that customer, I am viewing all hotels relative to every other hotel I have on my parameter. So this gave me a very improved model, and the results, conversion results were way higher onto the app. I think we increased the conversions by around 14 to 15% post phase 4. The final phase was okay. Leadership was like, the results are all good. You are having good increase in conversions. But what we saw was, in order to optimize for conversions, we were getting a reduced revenue from those bookings because this was not incorporating the commission or the finance aspect of Oyo into this model. So we started taking P&L into account and started prioritizing hotels with higher commissions for Oyo without compromising a lot on the conversions. So we took a slight hit on conversion, but we started optimizing for commissions as well. We started penalizing hotels for negative behavior, and we reduced the ranking of those hotels which had a negative behavior. For example, they are doing a hotel is not honoring the bookings that Oyo is providing, or it is not providing a very good experience. We started incorporating that into the model, or the hotel is not paying out Oyo on time. So we started, basically this was a dhande ka time, and we started incorporating those metrics into the model. The other challenges, Ravindra, since you were asking, the other challenges that we faced were distance issues. So the model, when it started providing an output in phase three, it was not able to uh, kind of solve for distances very well. It was showing hotels which were very far away from the city center because they had probably better amenities or better cost, everything. So what we did was we started bucketizing hotels as per distance from 0 to 5 kilometers, 5 to 10 kilometers, 10 to 20 kilometers, and incorporated that bucketing into the ML model, which is to say that 0 to 10 was probably prioritized a bit higher than 10 to 20. And that is how we solved for the distance issue. The other challenges that we faced was the first time we launched this model, the ML model found a hack that just prioritized the cheapest hotels on top. So we had to slowly uh, fix that as well. Try to reduce cost as an important factor into the ML model, and all that is done via coding.
And I think, Sanchit, this might involve in a lot of variable reengineering, right?
Yeah.
And is it the PM who kind of suggested how to re-engineer the variables, or is it the actual data scientists who were who recommended to do this variable re-engineering?
So, uh, and someone else also asked this question. In AI models, building AI products, right? The product manager is the one who gives the direction in terms of this is what we want to build, this is what we want to achieve, this is the um, these are the problems that we are facing. But the tech solutions have to be suggested by the data scientist or the developer in this case. So to answer your question, the issue was identified by the product team, and then we went and discussed with the engineering and data science team that, hey, how what are the possible ways of solving this problem. They are the ones who then take it back to engineering board, come up with possible solutions, and each solution has some pros and cons. And then as a team we all sit together and decide, okay, let's go with this possible approach. So to answer your question in a nutshell, this was not the solution was not suggested by the product team, but we all deliberated upon possible solutions as a team and then went ahead with this solution.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Uh, I think there's an issue with the image here, but uh, now that the OYO project is done, any other questions so far before I move on to generalist approach of how to build an AI model into your product? What are the steps?
Yes, Sanjay.
Yeah, Chintan.
So the user might be tending to select after 3-4 scrolling for the
Yeah,
hotel, and how we are incorporating that behavior into these models.
I didn't understand. Can you reword your question?
Okay, so one of the hypotheses is user might want to explore few hotels first, and then he might be choosing fourth or fifth hotel he is exploring as the best hotel, or their probability is more. So how our model can incorporate this behavior? Like how can we predict that and use it?
So that is the whole experience that we are trying to fix, right? What you're saying is the user browses three, four hotels before going for the fourth one. What we want to do is we want to show the first three, four hotels which are so good that the user doesn't need to go beyond that. What you're saying is even if there is a inherent user behavior that first I will see three, four hotels, our objective is to ensure those three, four hotels are good for you so that at least you don't drop off from the platform. You should find those three, four hotels relevant so that you book one amongst those. It's fine if you want to scroll and you want to explore and all that, that's all fine. But the objective of our AI model or our charter is to ensure that the first three, four are also relevant for you. Because there are two types of situations. One is where all those three, four are relevant for you, and hence you end up booking one amongst those. The other situation is those three, four are so irrelevant for you that you consider dropping off.
Yeah, got your point.
So now that we are done with OYO, I just wanted to tell you the steps of how to build an AI model into your product and what are the like chronological steps that you need to do. And this will answer some of the other questions that were also asked earlier. So number one is
Excuse
instrumentation.
me. Sorry, Ayush here. Actually, my name's not getting reflected properly. Just one question around the OYO model.
Yeah,
So you mentioned that for distance you did a bucketing from 0 to 5 was in a one bucket and 5 to 10 were in another bucket. But for two users who are seeking these two different things, maybe someone is looking for someone somewhere near the city center, and someone else is looking for somewhere maybe near a tourist place which is far away from the city.
correct.
So how does this work? Like, do the user have to first filter them and then the AI model kicks in, or do they work together? I mean, how does it work really?
Yeah, so basically it works basis what you have put in. If you have put in
Mhm.
Delhi, it will start showing you hotels with Delhi's center as the city center. But if you have put in more specific inputs, for example, you're
Mhm.
looking for hotels around probably Qutub Minar, right? So
Right.
if you type in that area, the system will take that as the city center and start suggesting hotels with that as the center. So it all depends on
Understood.
what the user has put in his search query. If you as a user know where you want to go for
Mhm.
example, in tourists, hotel, don't just type in Agra,
Mhm.
they type in hotels around Taj Mahal. So we take that as the center. If in NCR's case, if a person types for Gurgaon, we take Gurgaon as the center and not Delhi. Delhi is probably center point.
Understood. And let's say that if I don't know that, and if I put Delhi, then in that case, for two users, it will be the same. The results will be the same.
Same as in because their past history is different because all the type of hotels that they have.
I mean, let's say that there isn't much data which is differentiating these users, much past data. So in that case, the results will be different. But after that, their behavior could be different altogether. I mean, one could be looking at hotels at the top of the list. The other person could be scrolling more because maybe the input is the same, but maybe they are looking for something else.
So if let's say there are two new users who type the exact same search query, the results will be same for them. But from the
Mhm.
within the same session also in phase 5, what we did was within the same session, the moment you look at the first hotel, your search results
Mhm.
start getting updated. So if two
Okay,
users, even though they saw the first same search results in the first time, within the same session, the moment they click on two hotels and they come back to the main homepage, their results will be now different because it both of those search results have now been updated basis what they have done in this session.
understood. Thank you.
So I think we are short on time. I'll very quickly tell you the steps of building an AI model in general. So you start with data. Building any AI ML model needs a lot of data on your part. You have to ensure everything is instrumented and logged, right? A lot of companies they do not have they are not storing the right data. They are not storing it in the right format, and then they are when they go on to build an AI model, it all fails because first they have to spend a lot of months to fix the data, which happened with us also. So you have to instrument all the data, all the variables that I showed you. All the data has to be instrumented and logged. Then the data has to be extracted and cleaned. What that means is you have to ensure any past data which is in null format, which is blank, you have to fill data for those. Then uh, there is a lot of backfilling involved. Certain fields were in different
What
formats. Like
what method was used to fill that null data?
when you say method, is there something specific that you wanted to ask?
In general, I'm asking, what method was used?
So what we did was we filtered out all the data points which had null as an input, and instead of having dash or having uh, blank, we filled in some data value to it, and we uh, came up with a very simple logic that if there is nothing available, fill zero. But if the data before and after this particular field has certain values, fill something in the middle, which is the average of both of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So what this does is it ensures that nothing is blank because an ML model cannot understand blank. It can understand zero, it can understand a numerical value, but it cannot understand blank. So you fill that. There is a lot of scaling and normalizing of data which is required. Uh, Certain outlier data has to be removed from the ML model's consideration. For example, if 99.9% of your users are behaving in a certain way on the platform, and 0.001% users are just behaving the opposite way, those that outlier data has to be removed before this data can be fed into the data model, because that 0.001% will completely put your data results into a haywire in the ML model. So all that is done in data extraction, data cleaning. There is a lot of joins that need to be put in. There is a lot of scaling and normalizing that needs to be done on the data so that it can be understood by the ML model. Then you put in this data into the ML model to train it. Uh, Once the data has been trained, you look at the outputs and you do the model validation. So this was what I was saying to Ravindra earlier, that you test by feeding that data and putting it into the exact same business scenario of the past and see how that result, how the data model changed your earlier results. Your model validation also involves checking against your existing metrics. It involves adjusting feature importance. The examples that I gave you regarding distance, regarding cost, All that is handled in the model validation phase, wherein you see whether certain variables are skewing up your results, are not being considered by the model properly, uh, and then you adjust the importance of those features into the ML model. You remove certain skews or certain flaws that have come into the data model. All this is done by manually checking. This is no, like, this model validation is not done using AI. It is the output of the AI that you have to do a manual eyeballing on. Is it okay to stretch a little bit? 5, 10 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely, Sanchit.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sanchit, it's a
just to address questions and cover the session topics, we will.
Okay.
fascinating. If you're okay, I'm going to stretch, for some more time. And one question I have, Sanjit, for you is, when you spoke about outliers, was it Z-score that was used to identify what were the outliers?
Um, I'm kind of missing what was used at this point. It's been 4 years now.
But as a thumb of rule, -3 and greater than 3 or less than -3, is considered as an outlier. I'm just curious to understand. What was. It's okay. If you don't remember, that's fine. No, just curious to ask this.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been 4 or 5 years. I forgot. Right.
But
Then
that's fine. No issues. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Then we also did a rank wise distribution graph of those variables. For each variable, we came up with how much is this variable impacting the outcome of the model. And if a particular variable has a very um, disproportionate impact on the output, we do check it out in detail whether it is right or wrong. Once this is done, once the model validation is done, we check this model on live data. Uh, Once that passes the validation, we do coding and we develop the model, we do A/B testing, we launch it, and then we do regular data analysis post launch. So this is how you do build AI models. This is how Oyo built an AI model. I'll very quickly jump into tips for PM interviews, and then we'll close it for any Q&A. uh, in general, whenever you are talking about AI in your interviews, you have to understand that AI is very expensive and time consuming to implement. It is not easy for companies to implement AI, so do not suggest it as the first solution to any product question that is asked. I see this a lot when I see candidates interviewing. I ask them any question, they say we will do it via AI, but that should never be the first solution. You should think about the problem at a basic level, and only if AI fits and your company in that situation can justify AI is when you go for AI. Always mention AI as a first phase wise approach of implementation. It is not something that you do in a waterfall or a one stop kind of a solution. It is always done in phases. In interviews, always discuss possible challenges of this AI implementation as well. Every AI implementation requires a huge team. It requires a lot of people to do uh, work on training data, work on model validation. So it is not a simple thing. It is not something that you can do just two people sitting in a tech. You can use keywords like what is the objective function of this uh, AI model, what are the data models that you're putting in, is there any training data for supervised or unsupervised ML models. These are the kind of things that make you look smarter. uh, in general, whenever you are in a PM interview, uh, one basic thing that I always see candidates doing wrongly is they have the wrong approach. As an interviewer, I am not looking at your solution. I'm not judging you basis the solution that you provide to me. What I'm looking for is your problem solving approach and your way of thinking. And this is a very basic flaw that a lot of people do. People, I ask a question to them and they directly start jumping on the solution. Even if your solution is the best, I will not be impressed. I will not select you for the role because I'm looking for your thought process. I'm looking for your way of approaching this problem. So, whenever any question is asked in an interview, take a moment to think about it, ask clarifying questions if you have any, and then just explain your thought process. That is all is which is needed in a product interview. Your end solution is important, but it is not more important than the thought process which you convey to the uh, interviewer. Any questions so far?
So you mentioned that we don't directly go for the AI. We have to look for alternatives. So the time and effort for AI and the custom development, is there a variation? How much is the difference, like in adopting for an AI or going for a customization?
Customization is always easier. AI is always more effort and requires more maintenance, requires more people, and it is more expensive for companies to solve for. So, building a non AI solution will always be easier. So, suggest an AI solution only if you feel that it really adds value. If there is a disproportionate increase in the company's impact when implementing an AI solution. Otherwise, always look for non-AI solutions first.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Because this I kept a separate slide for this interview approach because this is I see this so often. Like just keep whenever you're going for an interview, just keep this one thing in mind. They are looking for your approach and your way of thinking, nothing else. Next is what I look for candidates when they are coming for an interview, right? Number one is identifying the problem state. Are you given a problem? Are you able to first understand the core problem that is being solved? What is the interviewer asking? Are you able to understand the problem in the user's life? Second is first principles thinking. Once you have identified the problem, are you able to break it down into basic components? Is first principles thinking. No problem is solved in its entirety. Every problem has to first be broken down into its basic components, and then each of those components have to be solved for. I look for candidates who are able to break the problem down into its core components. Once that breaking down into core components is done, are you able to identify the levers to control all those components? What are the variables which control those core components? Are you able to identify those levers or not? Next is user empathy. Are you able to identify your core customers' needs that are being solved with that product solution or not? Once all of this is done, then I look at what is the kind of solution that the candidate has come up with. Is he able to think creatively? Is he able to adjust the solution when I point the candidate in a certain direction? Is he able to change his strategy? But you come to a creative thinking solution only when you have identified the problem statement, you have broken it down into components, you have identified how those components can be moved, and you have associated customer thinking with those components. Only then you come to a solution in product interviews. Once all of this is done, then I look at the execution experience. How many products has the candidate built in the past? Because that is a clear indication. If you have built products in the past, you will be able to identify uh, and foresee challenges in the future products that you build. So this is subjective for people who have not built products in the past. That's fine. But then I come to execution experience, and the last is culture fit. Will you be able to work with my team or not? Will you be able to fit in with everyone else or not? And how likable you are as a person. So a very small tip: do not force fit product frameworks into interviews. I have seen that happen a lot because there are a lot of product frameworks that are available out there, and that is the reason I did not present any product framework in this session. Uh, I just gave you a high level way of thinking here, and if you apply this way of thinking in interviews, you'll be able to crack most of them. So don't force fit product frameworks. Don't force fit any sort of steps that people provide you out there. Think every question is different, so think accordingly. Any questions?
Sanchit,
Hi,
one
Sanchit.
question I have, how do you define a product?
Sorry.
How do you define a product? Product is, for example, I come from a finance background,
Yeah.
a pure play finance guy I am, right? So, I have done procure to pay. When I say procure to pay, I mean procurement. I have done reconciliations. I have done order to cash. Can I say reconciliation as a product?
Yes. So a product is basically solving a user problem through technology is a product. So there are reconciliation PMs in big companies. In Amazon, there will be multiple PMs solving reconciliation, but they are just creating a solution for the reconciliation problem through tech. So very simply, a product is solving anyone's problem through technology is a product.
All right.
Any questions here?
Yes, Sanchit. So you mentioned do not try to force fit any frameworks into product interviews. Can you direct through any of your experience, like what was it that actually you were not expecting and the candidate was force fitting like that?
Yeah, sure. So, if I give you a real example, let's say the question that I asked was, uh, imagine you're the product manager for WhatsApp payments, and you have to increase your market share from current 1% to 5%. What will you do as a product manager? Very simple question. It's a problem that is being solved in an existing product, right? But the candidate started applying product frameworks, which is first he will identify why we are building it, who we are building it for, uh, what are the uh, market conditions around, what are the he started applying AI on it. What are the metrics associated right now? What are there's clear product frameworks that are available in the market, right? You do not force fit Like this was a simple question of how will you take it from 5%, 1% to 5%? What is the problem? Why are we not able to go from 1% to 5%? What is the lowest hanging fruit? And what will you do in the short term to go from 1% to 5%? But if you start with a very top down approach, okay, who is the user of WhatsApp? What do they do on WhatsApp? And uh, what are the uh, past payment types that have been done? Like 10 other frameworks that have been applied, generic frameworks. Uh, what is my user? Why are we building it? Who is the objective? And all those product frameworks, it kind of deviates from the question that I've asked you. So try to understand what the interviewer has asked and what you need to answer to, like, tell him what he needs in terms of
But
showing him your
does
thought process.
yeah, but does that not conflict with the first principles thinking expectation from the candidate?
So first principles thinking is breaking this problem down, right? Product frameworks start at a very high level. So when I say product frameworks, it starts at why are we solving this problem? So I gave you a very simple question: move from 1% to 5%. There is no need to uh, look at why are we solving this problem. It is very simple. You are solving it because you want to increase your market share. You do not want to spend 5 minutes thinking why are we solving this problem? Who are we solving it for? It is WhatsApp users, right? So that's what I meant, that don't force fit. Wherever needed, then use it.
Okay.
And is it right question to ask why does they want to increase the revenue from 1 to 5%?
It's not revenue, it's market share. So currently WhatsApp,
Market, yeah, whatever, right? Is it the right question to ask why they want to increase?
it's self-explanatory, right? One every company wants to increase its market share. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? I think
Uh,
we have reached the
Uh,
end.
Hi, Sanchit. Ayush this side. Can you also tell what would be the possible solution you are expecting on this? Means how to increase the market share from 1 to 5%?
Yeah. So probably we can take another session on product interviews.
Just
Uh,
3 4 points. That would suffice, I assume.
this case, basically, the first thing that you need to do is you need to understand, look for reasons why we are at 1%. What has been happening in the company which is restricting you to 1%, and identify the lowest hanging fruits which can move you to 5%. You cannot solve the whole world, but just to move from 1% to 5%, you can look at the simplest opportunities that are present in the company. For example, in WhatsApp, its USP is peer-to-peer communication, right? Friends and family communicate primarily on WhatsApp in India. So you can exploit that and look for ways to increase payments or increase the adoption of payments amongst peer-to-peer, which is friends and family. A very simple solution can be, the moment someone mentions about payments in the chats, encryption and all aside, is there a way WhatsApp can recommend or suggest WhatsApp payments? I'm just brainstorming here, but those are the kind of areas that you can explore.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Any other?
So,
Yeah.
Sanchit, I have one question. Are you sure? So this is more around AI, and this is actually a real example. I was actually interviewing someone, and he was from a media company. He was a product manager there, and he mentioned that he used Google's Palm API to build something to suggest SEO keywords so that content creators, it becomes easy for the content creators to uh, write articles, something like that. So that was the problem statement. So my question then was that, like we discussed in this session, that how AI can help, but and you mentioned that tech and data scientists are more involved in what should be the right solution, and product should be more involved in what are the problems and what do we want to achieve. So I mean, should we also should as we as product manager also focus on what is there in the market in AI terms, and we should also go ahead and suggest some solutions to the tech team, or should we restrict ourselves to just the problems and the things we want to achieve?
No, no, absolutely. You should go and do your research. You should know what's out there in the market. You should suggest things to the tech team. I did not mean that you should restrict yourselves. What I meant
Mhm.
was that this is where you should focus a lot on. But you should obviously be aware of what is happening in the tech world, what all tools are available out there.
Can you like help me here, like if you can suggest some places where I can read, because there's a lot around AI, and if I just go through LinkedIn and YouTube, it's too much to grasp. So any resources you could suggest?
Um, I do not have a ready reckoner list right now. I will probably send some to Rakhi and she can send out. There are a bunch of courses that Pragmatic Leaders also has on AI. You can look
Okay.
at exploring those as well. But I'll send a bunch of links, and Raki can send it out to all of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Another resource, I would suggest is just ping Talvinder. He is a bunch of resource.
Yeah, pragmatic leaders and Talvinder, they have a bunch of courses and a bunch of repository of links that they can also share with you.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, so that's it. I hope this was helpful for all of you. Yeah,
Hey,
we will.
Sanchit, thank you so much. It's a awesome, session we had
Thank you.
on a Saturday morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sanjit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you,
session
Sanjay.
has run a bit over time, but it was a wonderful session. Truly incredible informations we received from you, Sanchit, and it has really deepened our understanding to the processes, interview strategies, and the type of questions being asked. Thank you so much for your time and sharing valuable information with us. And thank you everyone for your participation. It was really lovely to have you all in the session. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thanks,
Thank you.
Sanjit.